COVID-19 global pandemic is still being fought to this day. There's no better time than while there's reasoning behind the creation of the ministry, as now as we speak. Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development has, at these times of emergencies and national leave, diligently led efforts in the implementation of a series of coordinated interventions targeted specifically to ease the burden of vulnerable socio-economic segments of the country before and during the COVID lockdown.
Remember, you can always watch the program and other episodes by subscribing to our YouTube channels on youtube.com/Fresh News TV and youtube.com/Agenda2030 TV. You can also watch the program live on Facebook. Just log on to www.facebook.com/Fresh News NG and www.facebook.com/Agenda2030 TV. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Agenda2030 TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to drop a comment and share with your contacts. Do use the hashtag Agenda2030 and hashtag Agenda2030 TV. And that has been the size of our program this week. Do keep a date with us next week as we bring you another refreshing episode. I am Toyin Nkamiang John. Thank you for staying with us.
Akili, 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 akili. Will you wash your hands with me? I want to wash my hands with you. Come on, I will show you what to do. Wash your hands in clean water. Wash your hands, wet them with the water. Wash your hands now, add some soap. Scrub your hands in the soap and water. Scrub above and below between the fingers too. Scrub under your nails and scrub a dub-a-doo. Rinse your hands in water. Rinse them clean, rinse away the soap. Dry your hands and go.
Akili, why do we wash our hands?
To wash away the germs.
Akili, what are germs?
They're like tiny little bugs on your hands and they can make you sick.
But I don't see any germs on my hand.
That's because they're so tiny that you can't even see them.
Oh wow, I want to wash the germs away. Will you wash your hands with me, Akili?
Of course! Wash your hands in clean water. Wash your hands, wet them with the water. Wash your hands now, add some soap. Scrub your hands in the soap and water. Scrub above and below between the fingers too. Scrub under your nails and scrub a dub-a-doo. Rinse your hands in water. Rinse them clean, rinse away the soap. Dry your hands and go. Great job, Haruma! Can you tell me the 4 things we did to wash our hands?
I can try.
1.
Wet our hands with water.
2.
Put soap on our hands.
3.
Scrub our hands all over.
Very good evening to you and many thanks for joining us on the news on NTA International. I'm Chimobi Walter Naji. Let's take the headlines. Africa Continental Free Trade Area first commercial deal officially takes off, with agriculture taking the center stage. Niger presidential election. Second round of election imminent as no candidate gets more than 50% of total vote count. FG approves SIM replacement policy for subscribers to ease national identification number. Now, it's been predicted that agriculture has been at the center stage of transactions at the African Continental Free Trade Area that came into existence this January 2021. Musa Baba Aliyu takes a look at Nigeria food production business and the Continental Free Trade Area.
Even before the idea of the African Continental Free Trade Area was conceived, Nigeria has been the source of food, especially grains, for more than 10 African countries in West, East and Central Africa. The business, though 90% informal, are being transacted at an open grains market like this. The African Continental Free Trade Area is therefore expected to further strengthen Nigeria's agribusiness tied with other African nations.
If you can target another commodity, say 10 other commodities, say even if they are giving us $13 million, 10, that would be $300 million just for 10 commodities. And we have a lot. Sugarcane, we can export. Sesame, we can export. Honey, we can export.
Tijani Silagaro, a hides and skin merchant in Kano, says Nigeria will penetrate other international leather markets through the AFCTA.
We have established a lot of contact with shoe manufacturers in Nigeria and leather goods manufacturers generally in Lagos, in Aba, and in Kano here, that their products can be exported to South Africa, to Egypt, to a lot of countries within Africa without any tariff. So it's a welcome idea.
People who have made investment in the oil sector will be able to repeat, and other people will come in to make investment and make gain. So it is the best step in resuscitating the oil palm sector in Nigeria.
For business like this and others that are taking place across the African continent, the World Bank estimated that the monies that exchange hands daily worth more than $300 billion. The African Development Bank also forecasts that such businesses will hit $1 trillion under the African Continental Free Trade Area. Agricultural economists are of the view that for Nigeria to have a huge chunk of the business, issues relating to quality, standard and packaging must be addressed.
We are going to organize all our research institutions to make meaningful research, to develop products and allow them to sell, to patent their production.
Value addition to Nigeria's agricultural produce such as cocoa, coconut, shea nut, ginger, industrialists believe will boost the country's revenue and attract more market. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Thank you very much, Musa Baba Aliyu, for that background report. Now, joining us via Skype is the president of All Farmers Association of Nigeria, Kabir Ibrahim. Many thanks for joining us on the news tonight.
Thank you very much, Walter.
All right, so let's start with you, letting us understand what is the stand of All Farmers Association of Nigeria on the Continental Free Trade Area.
We are very enthusiastic. We are members of the National Action Committee, and we are working on the agriculture work stream to make it a reality. We have identified about 13 competencies where we can really harness our potentials and be able to play very well in after. We play on in soya, rice, maize, oil palm, rubber, cocoa, sugar, poultry, livestock, wheat, fisheries, sesame, and ginger. We must add value to all these products to be able to get the best out of them. We are already working with so many African countries informally. We just need to formalize it we need to accentuate so many areas that we can harness what we have. Our transportation, intercontinental transportation, processing, and general value addition will have to be augmented to be able to play and take advantage of the possibilities. The market is very, very good for us. We have encountered many problems in dealing with European countries. Here in Africa, we are the giant in all but name. But this will afford us the opportunity to be able to really make it a reality. We are also, I am, as AFAN president, I am the chairman of the National Technical Working Group on Global GAP, Good Agricultural Practice. And we will deploy that and sensitize our farmers to be able to adopt good agricultural practice so that whatever we bring out will be acceptable to all African countries and even beyond. So the focus on agriculture in Nigeria is timely, and we only need to explore the possibility of mechanization and then all year round agriculture to be able to upscale our production, to be able to play sustainably. I believe it's a very welcome development, and we are in it to stay.
All right, so Malam Ibrahim,
we will get out of poverty.
There's been concerns. Malam Ibrahim, we understand.
Yes.
We understand what we understand what you've just talked about. But then, there's been concerns that foreign farm produce might flood Nigerian markets. What's your take on that?
Well, by foreign you mean products from Africa.
Exactly.
That is very welcome. The business has to be symbiotic. We must have synergies. Because it cannot be a one-way track. There are those areas where we don't have comparative advantage, and those things will come in. If we do our work very well, we will be able to compete favorably with whatever comes in. If we don't allow anything to come into Nigeria, nobody will allow whatever we produce in Nigeria to go out to them too. This is a free trade area. You must be able to show your merchandise based on the packaging and the quality that you produce. You cut a niche. So it's a very welcome thing, and competition, I think, is very, very welcome in quality control.
But then, will the issue of rules of origin, also come in place as far as agricultural products is concerned?
Of course, that is germane to the success of the whole thing. You must do that. There are many, many streams, even transportation that I mentioned, quality control, the agribusiness itself. There are many, many streams, as many as 27 or so streams. People are working assiduously towards making it a success. Every other country must do the same, so that the quality of what we produce in Africa will be such that when its market is very good in Africa, it can also go to other continents.
Okay, so can you let us understand what would be the government's input as far as making sure that this African Continental Free Trade Area comes as a success and, of course, be a source of more revenue for the country? What should be government?
You see, government already has played a very, very important role. It set up NAC. It allowed us to look at all the possibilities in AFTA. And then before it ratified, they consulted with us widely. The president inaugurated our own committee. We went on to work. We worked. We submitted a draft based on which the president signed up the agreement that is taking place now in January. So government has put a lot of investment. It only needs to do more by helping us to get the infrastructure necessary for processing and value addition, and then also to help us to mechanize and upscale our production. And as I said, we must do agriculture all year round to be able to sustainably play in the market.
All right, thank you very much, National President, All Farmers Association, Chief Kabir Ibrahim, for being with us on the news.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And following the federal government's drive towards ensuring all subscribers' registrations are linked with national identification numbers, and all stakeholders in the industry work together to achieve a seamless process, the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Issa Ali Pantami, has approved a SIM replacement policy for subscribers whose SIMs have been lost, stolen, misplaced or damaged. A statement by the Director, Public Affairs, Nigeria Communications Commission, NCC, Ikechukwu Adinde, indicates that the replacement is subject to conditions including that subscriber presents a national identity number, that an effective verification of the name is carried out by National Identification Management Commission, and that the relevant guidelines and regulations of NCC concerning SIM replacement are fully adhered to. This policy is part of the federal government's efforts to reduce the burden of subscribers and simplify the exercise, and it's aimed at enabling telecommunication service users who need to replace their damaged or stolen SIMs to re-establish access to telecom services, the statement added. All right, and Israeli vaccinates 1 million against COVID-19 in less than 2 weeks, just as Niger presidential election heads for runoff. Joyce Ometu brings us up to speed on foreign scene.
Niger is going for a second round of the presidential election as no candidate clinched the needed 50% of the total votes cast in the first round that took place on December 27, 2020. Former Prime Minister Mohamed Bazoum of the ruling party PNDS came first with 39.33% of the vote, followed by former President Maman Usman of ARD party, placed second with 16.99% of the votes. In the meantime, the latest in a series of attempts by allies of President Donald Trump to overturn the November U.S. election result has failed. A Texas judge rejected the case, seeking to stop Vice President Mike Pence from certifying the final result. President-elect Joe Biden is due to take office on 20th January 2021. Let's now turn attention to the coronavirus pandemic. Vietnam has detected its first imported case of the new COVID-19 variant that is spreading rapidly around Britain. The variant was identified in a 44-year-old woman returning to Vietnam from Britain. In another development, Britain reactivated emergency hospitals built at the start of the pandemic and shut primary schools in London to counter the rapid spread of a much more infectious variant of the virus. The country's health service said the closures were a last resort in the face of a fast-moving situation. Meanwhile, Israel has given vaccinations against coronavirus to more than 1 million people, the highest rate in the world, as global immunization efforts step up. A global tracking website affiliated with Oxford University reveals that Israel is closely followed by Bahrain and the UK. Meanwhile, India has staged nationwide drills to start one of the world's biggest coronavirus vaccination programs. Saturday's drills saw 25 health workers receive dummy vaccines at each of the centers to be used across the country in a test run before the launch. A look at the numbers. The spike in coronavirus infections is showing no signs of slowing as global cases now exceed 84 million with 1.8 million fatalities. Nigeria on January 1st recorded 1,074 new cases as the total infection toll in the country rose to 88,587. Joyce Ometu, NTA News.
Many thanks, Joyce. Now, to speak on the spike of COVID-19 infection in Nigeria is the National Coordinator, Presidential Task Force, Dr. Sani Aliu. Glad to have you with us in the studios tonight.
Thank you, Walter.
All right, so how would you respond, to the spike in the cases of COVID-19 around the global community and in the country?
So here in Nigeria, I'll try and concentrate on Nigeria, of course, even though we know what's happening across the rest of the world. Here in Nigeria, we're definitely having our second surge, and from all indications, it's looking like it's probably going to be worse than what we had in April, May. And from the Presidential Task Force side, we continue to be very concerned about people's ongoing behavior, especially over the last 1 to 2 weeks, where people have continued to engage in mass gatherings with very limited use of and what we call non-pharmaceutical interventions, such as the use of face masks, social distancing, etc. The PTF has come out with an updated guideline and protocol. We are very pleased with some of the state governments that have gone ahead to implement these protocols. But at the end of the day, it's really important that we realize that this is a collective effort. We cannot continue to put our lives at risk. COVID-19 is very much with us. Unless and until we have effective vaccination in place, it will continue to be a problem. And from the rate at which this infection is increasing across the country, there's a real risk that we will overwhelm our health services. Already here in Abuja and also in Lagos, the number of cases is starting to surpass what is currently available. The FCT minister had to go around to open up more isolation centers, and the same is happening in Lagos as well. And I'm sure it will apply to some parts of the country. Yesterday, over 500 new infections were recorded in Lagos, which is huge. And if you look at the mortality, the death rate, even if our death rate is slightly less than 2%, but if you do 2% of more than 1,000 cases every day, you can imagine what's going to happen in the future, because the death rate always seems to lag behind.
All right, Dr. Sani, I mean, Nigeria had in the first phase of the infection, first wave of the infection in Nigeria, we never recorded as much as 1,000 cases in the country, and now we are recording over 1,000 cases. Did you envisage, that something like this could happen in the second phase? And if you did, do you think that we have enough capacity, to handle what may be coming towards us?
So, well, Walter, what do you expect in a situation where you have thousands of people mixing with each other without any protection, none at all? Not wearing face masks, not observing any physical distancing, engaging in parties and concerts and festivities where there's no protection at all. What do you expect? This is a virus that's always been looking for an opportunity, and it got the perfect opportunity. Back in March, April, when we locked down, we had less than 200 cases in the country. And when the surge started, we were running at around between 150 to 200 cases a day. But what happens if you relax? If you relax, what will happen is that the numbers will surge. So of course it's no surprise, because we know the rate at which people have been complying with our restrictions and our recommendations. And unless and until that changes, the number will not change unless we start abiding by the protocol and following the guidelines, which we will continue to push the state governments to enforce. Because I think at this stage, the gloves are going to start coming off, really. We cannot continue to put our citizens' lives at risk, particularly our elderly citizens and those that have comorbidities, because they are the ones most likely to die from these infections. From the travel side, you're probably aware that we have now started implementing the penalty. We've got the first 100 passengers that have failed to follow the protocol in terms of testing at day 7 on arrival in Nigeria. We have put travel restrictions on those passports. This has been effected yesterday, and hopefully by tomorrow the full list will come out in the newspapers, but it's already out in the social media. And we will continue to put travel restrictions on 100 passengers every week until people start complying with our travel protocol.
That's quite informing, Dr. Sani. But then, I mean, this there's been a lot of stories about the new strain of the virus finding its way into Nigeria. Is this true? And if not, how prepared is the country to stop this from happening?
So at the moment, we don't have confirmation that we have the B117 strain. We have a university, I believe, that's been doing some of the sequencing down in the southwestern part of the country, Professor Chris Happy's laboratory, and we've already asked him to look at the more recent isolates. He's had a look at some of the isolates back in September, October, but we wanted to have a look at the more recent isolates. For the moment, we don't have confirmation that we do have the new strain, but then that's why we've been strengthening our protocols when it comes to international travel. We have a new set of guidelines that apply to passengers that are coming from the United Kingdom and South Africa, and in these instances, these passengers will have to make sure that they have what we call a QR code or a permit to travel certificate, which has to be downloaded from our travel portal website.
Okay, and Dr. Sani, sorry, because of time, we could just have your final thoughts on on this issue.
So my appeal to Nigerians is COVID-19 is still very much with us. It's really important that we continue to protect ourselves and our loved ones. If you are elderly, if you are above the age of 60, you have comorbidities, now is the time to actually lock up more than at any other time, because COVID-19 is spreading and we're doing whatever we can. However, at the end of the day, safety comes first. It will be a personal tragedy if a person catches COVID, and it's really important that we protect ourselves. I'm also appealing to the public to observe those non-pharmaceutical interventions, wearing a face mask in public, keeping your distance, and avoiding crowds.
Yes, Doc, finally, just in about 30 seconds, if you may, the issue of vaccine, how ready are we to get it in Nigeria?
There's a lot of work going on in the background. The National Primary Healthcare Development Agency has been linking up with Gavi. We're very confident that by the end of January, at least we would have the first set of persons being vaccinated. We're very confident that that will happen, but it's a lot of work, and it's already going on in the background.
All right, thank you very much. We've been speaking with the National Coordinator, Presidential Task Force, Dr. Sani Ali. Many thanks for being with us on the news tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right, watching the news on NTA International. More news after the break. Just stay with us.
I am there now. Are you sure this will work? Pastor, I can't miss this guy's lecture. Just keep the phone on so I can listen.
Today we're going to be discussing sleep What is the medical term for sleepwalking?
Sonambulism.
Right. Get free Intel to Intel calls and experience HD quality conversations every time. Intel. Live more.
Thanks for being with us on the news. The Directorate of Defense Media Operations, DMO, says air interdiction missions being conducted by the Air Task Force of Operation Lafayette Dole have continued to deal with terrorist elements operating in the northeast zone of the country, with the elimination of Boko Haram terrorists and destruction of their structures and logistics store. DMO Coordinator Major General John Enenche indicates that the latest of these was achieved at Mana Waji in Borno State, where the terrorists set up a new settlement. The airstrikes were executed employing Nigerian Air Force fighter platforms after a series of aerial surveillance missions revealed that the new settlement was being used to store weapons, logistics items, and staging area for attacks. And next is sports. Stay with us.